Hi, welcome to Module 8, Communication in Agile Leadership Setting. I'm Dr. Prabhakar Gantasala, Associate Dean, School of Business, Southern Connecticut State University. We all understand that Agile leaders engage in communication all the time. It's important that they understand the nature of communication, how communication can be effective, what are the kind of common challenges that Agile leaders face while communicating with team members, with organizational members, and for communicating their vision, making sure communication, both downward, upward, and lateral communication, is smooth and it's effective in ways that organizational goals can be accomplished. We have two learning objectives for this module: mastering effective communication strategies for agile leaders, and also the important aspect of developing active listening skills. Both these things are very important for agile leaders as they navigate the space of uncertain times in an organizational setting. Communication is the key for communicating vision, goals, and also making sure that everybody's on the same page for the purposes of organizing work, coordinating between departments, between groups and teams, also for reporting purposes, for taking feedback and making corrective action so that you know your organization is on track when faced with uncertain times and ambiguous situations. Beginning with communication strategy framework, what are the core elements of a good communication strategy? The first and foremost thing that agile leaders must focus on is message clarity. Whatever message that you as a leader wants to communicate to your organizational members has to be simple, but also at the same time inspirational. Must be powerful, must be something that everybody looks up to with clear understanding of whatever you want to say as part of your vision. So clear messaging, simple but powerful messaging is extremely important as a communication strategy framework. It should have the basis of consistent themes when you communicate, so you can be simply arbitrary. You might have to make sure as an agile leader you have clearly defined themes, say three or four broad themes under which you can classify goals, activities, initiatives, or teams that will work on certain things and then be able to communicate that across organizations. The second important aspect that you must have to focus on creating an effective communication strategy framework is channel selection. You got to know that you have to use the right tools and right channels while communicating. Most of the times, we all understand in a day and age that's all AI and machine learning and virtual communication. It's important to understand the richness of certain channels like face to face communication. So when you call in people and talk to them personally, that personal element can definitely help them to be motivated. You can communicate your vision clearly as an agile leader. You can inspire them personally. You have the opportunity to look at their feedback, both verbal feedback as well as non-verbal feedback, and also offer clarity for their questions, their concerns, and anything that they would like to ask and seek information on. So choice of channels is an extremely important thing that agile leaders must keep in mind. You might pick the phone and call people just in case you want to make everybody know that you are reachable, that you have this open door policy, that you're accessible, and that you're just one phone call away. That's a nice way of building trust and a two-way communication. Sometimes picking up a phone and talking to people actually provides a lot of clarity and removes ambiguity and uncertainty in communication. They also get the tone and feel of how important something that you're discussing is for them as individuals. You also get a chance to understand and appreciate their inclination, involvement, and acceptance of a particular task that you want to assign them. And it also provides you an opportunity as an agile leader to discuss resources, to discuss strategies, and ways then in which this particular employee can engage and be successful at the task that you're probably assigning them. Platform effectiveness is extremely important. Email communication can be an effective tool. Communicating on Teams, communicating on Zoom, and other virtual tools is extremely useful as a channel of communication, especially if your organizational presence is across the globe. Timing and frequency, I think that's very important. Regular cadence is important. You got to make sure whatever you do, like team meetings for departments, team meetings for say discussing certain activities and initiatives, regular organizational wide meetings, meetings that actually bring several groups together. These have to be timed properly, not at times when everybody is busy and have their plates full, but also make sure you give them enough uh, heads up time, share a clear agenda, make it very transparent, let every member of that particular meeting know that their input is important, encourage those team members who don't speak much, provide opportunities for taking feedback, provide opportunities and time for organizational members to provide, for them to be able to provide you feedback. And the frequency with which you do may be initially more because you want your vision to be clear. You want all the initiatives and activities that you want teams and individuals to engage in should be very clear. So you might have to be repetitive at some time. Maybe you'll have to do these meetings more frequently for passing on that message, ensuring clarity, providing support, providing some level of assurance that all the changes that you're bringing in as an agile leader are in the best interest of individuals, teams, and as well as the organization and its stakeholders. So these are important core elements that are essential that you keep in mind as you build a strong communication strategy framework that helps you communicate as an agile leader. And in the process, you're using such a framework to communicate your vision, communicate goals, KPIs, performance expectations, and feedback on performance, and provide regular feedback on how things can be improved, and also communicate the resources that you'll be able to provide these organizational members in terms of finances, in terms of people support, or in terms of organizational connections, or historical data or information that they would need, and support in terms of training and skill development that is so essential for organizational members to be able to succeed. I would strongly recommend for you to watch this video on strategic communication available on YouTube, and it only can help you understand why we talk about communication strategy framework as an integral element of success for an agile leader. The second learning objective for today's module is also active listening skills. As an agile leader, you cannot jump to conclusions. You have to have the patience of talking to people while you talk. One very important thing that most individuals forget as leaders is that they have to pay full attention, show genuine interest in what the opposite person is saying, and you've got to listen out to your employees, to your team members, to your organizational members, and you watch out for body language, look at engagement signals, what actually lights up their eyes, what brings forth a lot of positive energy. You got to be watchful of these kind of feedback that is integral to listening skills. Also, you should be careful about understanding what the other individual is saying by patiently listening, actively listening, listening with empathy, so that you understand the other person's perspective clearly. You can ask questions if you are not sure of what the other person is saying. You might want to paraphrase so that you communicate to the other individual that you understand it correctly. That only can encourage individuals who are talking to you to be able to give you more detail. And you want to provide response that is based on thoughtful feedback and not just your own perspective. It's your ability to put others ahead of you, that you're a servant leader, that you're transformational as a person, that you show energy, you show empathy, you show recognition and appreciation for diversity, and that actually makes you a good listener. And when you patiently listen, you also win the trust of individuals and team members who work under your leadership. I strongly recommend for you to watch Mastering Active Listening by Simon Sinek. That's available on YouTube for you to understand and appreciate how you could possibly develop active listening skills that are so important for success as an agile leader. Integral to communication, I'm sure you all understand, is feedback loops. So having effective feedback loops created in an organization, whether it's in teams or at the organizational level, is integral to success as an agile leader. So regular check-ins, having individuals and teams report back to you through continuous dialogue, uh, offering you reports that they have generated, offering data that they can showcase, showcasing of outcomes that have had an impact is very important for you to be able to sustain development focus. It's not enough if you simply talk, but you have to check in if they have been able to do their job, and if they are not, or if they're finding difficulties while trying to perform their tasks and achieve their KPIs, a regular check in can only give you a better understanding of those challenges and work your way to providing the kind of resources that someone is looking to doing their job really better. As part of the effective feedback loops that you want to create, 360-degree feedback is a wonderful tool. You can listen to your customers, you can listen to your employees, you could also listen to other stakeholders of an organization that you're continuously engaged in to seek their input, to seek their opinion, to seek their suggestions for improvement. And that presents to you a comprehensive view of what you're doing as an organization or what you're bringing in as a leader with a vision and how you're able to mobilize activities and initiatives that are in support of mission advancement. And if you find shortcomings or if you find areas of improvement, a 360-degree feedback will give you the sense of direction or where you want to make those kind of changes and have those incremental improvements that support innovation, that support learning as an organization. You've got to also make sure that feedback is action oriented, that you provide feedback that is very constructive, that is descriptive, and that's also action driven, that's pragmatic, and that's not very evaluative. So, feedback cannot be directed at an individual, but should be directed at the behavior of an individual, constructive behaviors being reinforced, certain dysfunctional behaviors being you know, try to be discouraged as well. So if you keep your feedback action driven, uh, individuals and teams will be happy to come back and listen to your feedback because they value your feedback as you're genuinely concerned with their higher performance, with their recognition and appreciation, and you help them grow as individuals and as also teams. I would strongly recommend you for you to be able to watch Feedback That Works by Harvard Business Review available on YouTube, which also talks about the importance of feedback, regular feedback, timely feedback, behavior driven feedback, feedback that is constructive, feedback that is generative in terms of learning, and feedback that actually improves organizational performance as much as it does with individual performance. Now, transparency and clarity are integral to any communication framework. As we discussed in the prior module, building trust is an integral aspect and responsibility of an agile leader. How would you be able to build trust? We've talked a little bit in the prior module as well. Information sharing. If you create systems and processes in the organization where there's a sense of collaboration, there's a sense of tapestry, you have a very good chance of information sharing on an ongoing basis. uh, these information sharing also can uh, also include salary transparency, decision rationale. While you take decisions as an agile leader, what is the process that you follow? What is the data you collect? How do you build consensus? How clearly and in depth you discuss certain issues before decisions are taken? And there should be that sense of ownership of decisions. It should not be top driven, it should be bottom up kind of approach while you share information and you arrive at decisions. As discussed earlier, clear expectations have to be generated by discussion and participation. And as an agile leader, you can guide discussions and communication in ways that provide that clarity, including goal KPI clarity and also role clarity. In the process, you're helping as an agile leader individuals and teams understand what's expected in terms of performance from them and that are also mission aligned. Another aspect of transparency and clarity and building trust in organization is the open communication. A classical example is that of Zappos open door policy. Now, the open door policy especially essentially means that employees are encouraged to openly communicate with anyone at the company, including the top management at any possible time, including the CEO, with no barriers or formal hierarchy. This is often symbolized by the idea that there are no doors to access leadership, allowing for direct and transparent communication on any issue or concern they may have. This is also a core part of their company culture, focusing on building honest relationship. And employees are encouraged to speak freely with anyone in the company, regardless of their position, about any work related matter. It builds trust. The policy aims to foster a culture of trust and transparency where employees feel comfortable raising concerns without the fear of repercussions as well. And no physical doors are there. The concept is often described as the best way to have an open door policy is not to have a door at all, meaning executives, including the CEO, sit in open areas, among regular employees, facilitating easy access and conversation. It requires time, patience, true engagement, involvement, plenty of servant leadership, focus on transformation, putting people first, your employees first, and the planet first as important aspect of building trust in ways that are transparent and clear. Now, communication tools and technologies, today's world and age, you have a lot of modern platforms that help facilitate communication. And that there are several tools that we can use as agile leaders to make communication clear, transparent, and help us build trust and also create cultures of innovation and learning. There are collaboration tools like virtual workspaces and document sharing. Again, as we mentioned in prior modules as well, if your organization has locations across the globe, I think having to work in virtual spaces, share documents on shared folders, if it's a OneDrive or a Google Drive, you know it all that these collaboration tools have an opportunity for us to put in ideas, review them on the fly, provide feedback, constructive feedback, direct discussion towards a particular outcome, and also ensure transparency in the process and providing equal opportunity for everyone to engage in meaningful discussions and meaningful decisions. Visual communication, again, you can use Power BI, you could use dashboards, you could use Tableau, you could have plenty of other data visualization techniques because when you look at data, when you look at graphics, infographics as well, and you look at tables and graphs and bar graphs and stuff like that, it presents to you without any kind of uncertainty whether we are headed in the right direction. If you look at sales, you look at revenues, you can look at retention of customers, you look at numbers that pertain to different geographical regions. You're also looking at different product categories and how you're performing. You have a better sense of understanding where the organization is headed, where do we have to make changes as a company, where is that we have to put more emphasis, put all our efforts, where are the areas that we could strengthen and sustain our position. So data visualization techniques, progress tracking, are all aspects of visual communication that can only help you as an agile leader and your team members understand and figure out the current position, track changes, and also look at the impact that our current decisions are making, and go back to the drawing table with additional data to make the required changes to support any corrective action as and when they are required. These are all important tools to use while facing business environments that are uncertain, volatile, complex, and ambiguous, the VUCA environment that we have talked in prior modules. We also have other modern platforms like virtual meetings, like the one that we have currently doing with using, say, Teams or Zoom or other platforms that we can use to engage with employees across different global locations. We can have other engagement techniques like we could do a poll everywhere, we could have discussion boards, we could have whiteboards that people could engage in writing their ideas, could have chat bots and chat places where all of us could put in our ideas. We could have shared documents. We could use a lot of virtual spaces and meetings to help and facilitate connection between team members that are in different geographical locations and engage in different projects, for example. I would strongly recommend you to watch digital communication tools, again available on YouTube, and communication role play by Mind Tools, again available on YouTube for you to understand how do you facilitate communication across remote locations and how do you understand better the impact and effectiveness of written versus verbal and other oral forms of communication as well. How do you measure communication effectiveness is something that every agile leader must be aware of. You want to make sure communication is working, it's happening, and you're able to assess the process of communication within the organization. I'm sure from your experience as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as managers and leaders, you must have understood the majority of the problems are even more complicated because of the kind of distortion, manipulation, barriers in communication. So measuring your communication process and its effectiveness is integral to understanding how you can be more successful and effective as an agile leader. The key metrics involved in measuring communication effectiveness are first one is the understanding. Do we have a clear method measure of understanding if the message has been comprehensive, if you have everyone understand what we are trying to communicate, if actions and efforts have been aligned to advance the mission, to achieve KPIs and goals of the organization. And how do we do it? We collect timely periodic feedback from every stakeholder that's engaged towards achieving organizational team goals. The second metric that can be used to measure communication effectiveness is engagement. Look at the participation rates, how many employees or stakeholders are engaged on a regular basis, how much do they participate, how many discussions or meeting times that they actually come to, what is their contribution and response times, what's the discussion quality, how many actions have been mobilized, how many outcomes have been realized, and how many actions have been implemented in the past from such engagement in terms of communication meetings. We are also interested in the impact that we are creating. What is the kind of behavioral change? What's the change in culture? What's the change in terms of the impact that we are creating on our stakeholders, including our customers? How do we impact positively the planet and its people? How do we contribute to the prosperity of societies and communities that we work? How much of the goals that we set forth at the beginning of each year have we achieved? So you can measure the understanding, the engagement, and the impact that we are creating. I would strongly recommend for you to watch Measuring Communication Success by Gartner on YouTube for finding out what are the kind of metrics that can be used as an agile leader for measuring the effectiveness of communication within your organization, within your teams. This is a very important aspect. If you don't know if your communication is working or not, and if you just work under the presumption that everybody understands what they're supposed to be doing, things could fall apart very quickly. Coordination problems could arise, redundancy, duplication can happen. You begin to lose effectiveness and efficiency of all organizational processes and efforts. So, as an agile leader, it's important for you to create institutionalized communication processes, provide opportunities, times, and incentives for organizational members to participate in these communication opportunities, and also then measure through feedback channels if your communication has been effective, if you've created the kind of impact, if your engagement levels have increased over a period of time. There could be some challenges you would definitely face in the communication space because the nature of communication itself is very complex. The first and foremost challenge that organizational members and agile leaders could face is information overload. How do you overcome that kind of information overload? Is use a communication hierarchy. Make sure you have different levels in the organization that manage communication, that everyone in the organization doesn't have to know everything because that can only create information overload. If they knew exactly what they're supposed to be doing with a general understanding of how their work is connected with others' work, I think that would be enough. But if you knew more than what was required, you could be a victim of information overload. So creating a very clear and specific organizational as well as communication hierarchy can overcome the challenge of information overload. You also have another challenge that happens because of remote communication. So you have to make sure as an agile leader you have the right set of virtual engagement strategies to engage, say, your stakeholders, to engage your partners, to engage your suppliers across the globe in virtual spaces, and make sure you don't have issues that can come across that can arise because of remote communication with lack of clarity, lack of understanding, lack of detail and specifics. You don't want to have this kind of issues that can create delays. It can create loss of customers. It can also result in a reduction in revenue, sales, and profits. The solution that you could have for cross-cultural communication if you're operating across the globe is build that cultural intelligence. You might want to train your employees on cultural sensitivity, their understanding of other cultures, their appreciation of diversity, and also create this sense of empathy and the ability to listen to others' perspective, to think outside the box, to appreciate different perspectives on the same problem, to give opportunities for everyone across the table to give their suggestions and to give their viewpoints about a problem. I think creating that kind of cultural intelligence across the organization can let you overcome challenges that can stem from cross-cultural communication. There are some very good examples of HSBC's global communication models overcoming communication barriers. It's available on YouTube, and you could actually watch that video. Implementing feedback systems, another nice video from MIT called the Communication Excellence the Sloan School of Business, and you can definitely watch that video on YouTube for you to understand the common challenges and the kind of solutions that can be implemented to overcome these challenges. There are certain additional resources that are extremely useful for you. Crucial Conversations by Kerry Patterson is a great read. Thanks for the feedback by Douglas Stone. Again, a very useful read. Online courses from Coursera, like Leading with Effective Communication from edX, Communication Leadership, is two very good courses that you can take. International Association of Business Communicators is a community that can provide you several reading materials that is useful for understanding the nature of communication, building communication networks, the challenges and barriers to communication, and effective ways of making communication work for your company. Toastmasters International, again, a great source for discussing cultural aspects, discussing, and reading about how do you overcome these kind of challenges in a communication setting. Thank you.